there's just so much with sense of humor. If you go to a powwow and you listen to the announcers, they always include, I don't know, sense of humor in there as part of the whole, you know, part of the whole celebration, you might say, you know. And I mean, sense of humor is really important because I think it's really helped tribal people overcome lots of obstacles, you know, to be able to laugh at the things that were so disheartening. My mother tells of when she went to boarding school. She went to boarding school here. There's an all-girl boarding school, and she went to school when she was 7 years old. They took all these girls at Fort Berthold and put them on a train in Garrison. And then they didn't speak any English, and then they came to Bismarck. And then when they got off the train, they were handed government-issue clothes. And they didn't realize, you know, what was going on. And of course, you know the history of not being able to speak their language and all this and that. But she said they had a matron, and the matrons were strict, of course. And she said there was one day that all these girls got together, and they said, you know what, we're going to jump on the beds. And they said, okay, that sounds like fun, because all those beds were lined up in that room, you know. Let's jump on the beds. So they got in there and they jumping on the beds. And my mom said, all of a sudden the matron came in. What are you doing? You know, and she, you know, corrected them. And now you have to go see the head matron, would have been the principal. So she gathered all those girls up and they went down there. When they got down there, they seen a line of kids that were lined up to go in to see that principal. And I thought, uh-oh. And the kids were coming out, and some of them were crying and all this and that. And she said, one of them that came out went up to my mother and the other girls with her and said, you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now. When they were talking, and said, you know what, you go in there, start crying right away, and then they won't spank you hard. So she said they went in there, and sure enough, my mom said we went in there, and we started crying, and the way she tells it's so funny. And she said, sure enough, they didn't even spank me, they said, and then they let them go. So they learned, you know. But anyway, so, you know, she tells that story, and it is funny. It's kind of sad, you know, but they found humor in it, you know, and even today, you know. Or she has other stories about going in and eating, and you could only eat at certain times. Breakfast, and you couldn't take any food out. And lunch, and then supper. And the story that her and Regina Shenandoah, when she was still alive, used to tell us was that they had knickers that they had to wear. So they always got hungry when they'd go back to the dorms after supper time. So she said we'd take the biscuits from the table and we'd drop them in our knickers. She said so that when we go out, you know, they wouldn't catch us. And there was peanut butter on the table, so they would take the peanut butter and they'd spread it on their hands. Because when they go out, they'd have to stand and pass somebody who was checking, and they'd have to go like this and turn, and then they'd go out. And so she said, oh, we had so much fun, because then when we got outside and got to our room, and we'd take out the biscuits and we'd take off the peanut butter, and we had a snack. So they would laugh about that, you know. So humor has helped tribal people survive. It really has.